The late afternoon sun slanted through the cracked kitchen window, painting long, jagged shadows across the wooden floor. Emma's hand trembled as she filled a stainless steel bowl with water, the faint metallic scent mingling with the mustiness of the old farmhouse. Titan, her K9 partner, padded slowly into the room, his muzzle glinting in the fading light. He sniffed at the bowl, then unervingly turned and fixed his gaze on the basement door. Low and silent, a growl rumbled in his chest, a warning not to her, but to something lurking below. Emma's pulse spiked. She shouldn't go down there. If you enjoy immersive thrillers with tense, character-driven suspense, consider liking and subscribing for more stories like this. No gimmicks, just the kind of narrative that keeps your pulse racing. Emma stood frozen for a moment, the metallic smell of the water bowl mixing with the faint dampness that always seemed to seep from the basement door. Titan's low growl reverberated through the wooden floorboards, vibrating under her feet like a warning drum. She had never heard him sound like this. Normally obedient and calm, he now carried an almost human insistence in his gaze. Emma's heart thrummed, not just from fear, but from a rising, inexplicable dread she could neither name nor dismiss. The farmhouse was silent except for the soft creaks of old wood. Even the wind, rustling through the maple trees outside, seemed subdued, as though nature itself were holding its breath. She glanced around, the dim light turning ordinary objects into shadows with jagged teeth. A chair in a corner loomed like a crouching figure. The kitchen counter stretched into an unbroken line of darkness. She shivered, not entirely from cold. "Titan, what is it?" she whispered, almost wishing he wouldn't answer with those eyes so fixed, so pleading. The dog didn't move, only growled again, deeper this time, rumbling like distant thunder. His fur bristled, tail stiff, and ears angled forward. He wasn't just alert. He was demanding something she didn't want to see. Her fingers brushed the doorknob of the basement, cold metal against clammy skin. The memory hit her, a flash from last winter, when she first moved into the farmhouse. Strange noises, late-night shuffling from below, but she had always blamed her imagination, or the rats. But Titan's behavior, unwavering and urgent, told her it was neither imagination nor vermin. Emma pulled back, feeling the knot in her stomach tighten. She had lived alone for nearly 6 months, after moving here to escape the crushing familiarity of city life, and in a relationship that had frayed at the edges until it snapped entirely. Her ex, Matthew, had always believed she was weak, too cautious. She wasn't cautious anymore, she thought, but maybe cautious was exactly what she needed right now. She bent down slowly, crouching Titan's level, and ran her hand along his back. He didn't flinch. Instead, he let out a long, almost mournful sigh and turned his nose toward the basement again, refusing to drink the water she had placed before him. "Okay," she said softly, almost to herself. "We'll check it. Just careful, all right." The basement door loomed like a dark maw as she fumbled for the light switch. The old bulb overhead buzzed and flickered, reluctant to illuminate the space. When it finally glowed, weak and yellow, the basement stairs appeared like a tunnel carved into shadow. Dust motes floated lazily in the light, disturbed by the faint draft emanating from the cellar. Titan padded ahead, nose low, growling quietly, each step slow and deliberate. She followed, her own breathing loud in her ears, echoing off the stone walls. The faint smell of mildew and something fouler, something coppery, permeated the air. Emma's stomach churned. She paused at the bottom, peering into the deeper darkness beyond the reach of her flashlight. Then she saw it. A faint smear on the wall, dark and sticky, almost hidden in the shadows. Not blood, she hoped, not at first glance. Yet the instinctive punch to her gut told her it was something just as serious. Titan sniffed, growled, and then began pacing, circling an old wooden crate in a corner. The crate looked ordinary, forgotten, with peeling paint and a warped lid, but Titan's obsession with it was palpable. Emma's hand shook as she lifted the lid. Inside was a collection of objects that sent her stomach into freefall: a child's worn shoe, frayed at the edges, a small notebook, its pages yellowed, and a photograph she didn't recognize, a family smiling, eyes darkened and hollowed, as though someone had scratched over them. Her breath caught. The objects seemed mundane, yet they screamed of hidden histories, of lives interrupted. A noise behind her made her spin. The stairs groaned, then silence. She called out, "Hello?" Her voice sounded ridiculous in the emptiness. Titan's hackle stayed raised, and he bared his teeth briefly, a warning aimed at nothing visible. Her mind raced. Could it be squatters? A vagrant hiding in the basement? But no. Titan never reacted this way to strangers unless they were dangerous. There was something else here, something human, maybe more than human, that he recognized and she did not. Emma's cell phone buzzed on the counter above. She ignored it, fear mixing with curiosity. She had to understand what Titan was guarding against. Slowly, cautiously, she reached for the notebook. The pages were filled with a neat, precise hand, lists of names, dates spanning years. Most of them seemed random at first glance, but then she noticed a pattern. Addresses in the surrounding county, all tied to people who had vanished without explanation. Her hands trembled so badly she almost dropped it. A sudden crash from above made her leap, and Titan barked sharply. The sound echoed in the tight walls of the basement, bouncing back to them like a taunt. Emma's pulse raced. She had been alone in the house, alone until now. But the sense of being watched was undeniable. She looked down at Titan. He was tense, low to the ground, every muscle coiled like a spring. Emma realized with a sinking certainty that this wasn't just a basement hiding place. This was a prison of secrets, a timeline of disappearances, curated meticulously, right here in her home. And Titan had found it before she even had a clue. The flashlight caught something else, half hidden under the crate. A set of footprints, small, maybe a child's, etched into the dirt floor, fresh. Her stomach sank. She wasn't imagining it. Someone or something had been here recently. Emma's thoughts raced the neighbors. She knew most of them by sight, had waved politely, exchanged pleasantries. Could one of them have been involved? Or someone else entirely? The feeling of isolation pressed down on her chest. She was utterly alone, and yet she wasn't. Not really. Titan's growl escalated to a sharp, commanding bark. Emma's gaze followed his line of sight and froze. At the far wall, near a small, hidden hatch, a shadow shifted. Not fully human, not fully defined, but unmistakably alive. Her mouth went dry. A whisper of movement. A scuff, a cough. Maybe nothing at all, but it was enough. Emma backed away, instinctively reaching for her phone, but it slipped from her hand, clattering against the crate. The sound seemed deafening. The shadow paused, then retreated into deeper darkness. Titan lunged forward, growling, then froze. Emma noticed for the first time the set of rusted tools stacked neatly beside the crate. Knives, hammers, blunt instruments, all arranged as if waiting for use. Her stomach dropped. These weren't just traces of disappearances. They were implements. Implements of something far more sinister. Emma took a shaky breath. She needed help. Someone trustworthy. She thought of the sheriff in the next town over, a man who had once comforted her during a minor accident. Could she trust him? Could she even survive long enough to call? Her pulse thudded violently as Titan returned to her side, nuzzling her arm briefly, as if saying, "I've found it. Now you must act." She nodded, swallowing bile, and reached for the hatch. It was small, just large enough for a person to crawl through, but it descended into blackness deeper than the basement floor itself. A sudden creak above startled her again. Emma's hands trembled as she realized she was not only confronting the basement, but confronting every choice that had led her to this isolated farmhouse. Every moment of trust, every decision to leave behind the life she knew, had brought her here, and now she had a choice: uncover the truth or remain blind. The basement smelled of decay, secrecy, and something worse. Titan's eyes glinted, reflecting the feeble light, like dark pools of understanding. He would follow, and Emma, against every instinct screaming at her, would follow him. The shadows shifted again, deliberate this time, and Emma's breath caught in her throat. Whatever was below was waiting. And now, so were they. Chapter 1 ends on a tense cliffhanger, establishing the basement mystery, Titan's protective instincts, and Emma's moral and emotional tension. The hatch creaked under Emma's trembling hands, protesting every inch as she forced it open. Titan's low growl vibrated to the wooden floorboards above the basement, a steady anchor of warning and loyalty. She paused at the threshold, peering into a darkness so thick it seemed to swallow the weak beam of her flashlight. Her chest tightened. She could feel the pulse of the unknown, beating beneath the floor. "You okay?" she whispered, more to herself than to Titan. The dog didn't answer. He merely shifted closer, his paw brushing her leg, eyes locked forward, unblinking. She descended slowly, each step deliberate, the smell of damp earth and mildew thickening as she went deeper. The air was colder now, carrying a faint metallic tang, the scent that had made her stomach twist in the kitchen. Titan padded ahead, sniffing constantly, pausing every few steps to growl at shadows that danced beyond the reach of her flashlight. The cellar widened into a low-ceilinged chamber, walls of raw stone carved and smoothed long ago, now crumbling at the edges. And there, in the faint glow of her flashlight, she saw them. Marks etched into the stone, hundreds of them, tallying some unknowable timeline. Names, initials, dates. So many lost souls cataloged here, recorded in sharp, deliberate strokes. Her hands shook. Each mark was a whisper, a scream frozen in stone, a proof of lives swallowed by darkness. Then she heard it, a shuffle, soft, deliberate. Emma froze. Titan's growl deepened, resonant and warning. A figure emerged from the shadows, a man, wiry, mid-40s, hair disheveled, eyes like cold iron. He raised his hand slowly, but there was no warmth in his expression. "You shouldn't be here," he said, voice calm, almost light, but the menace underneath was undeniable. Emma stepped back instinctively, bumping against the stone wall. Who are you?" Her voice trembled, betraying her fear. "Call me Harris," he said, tilting his head, studying her like a puzzle. "And I suppose you want answers." "Ah, yes. There are things in this basement. Things I shouldn't be seeing. People disappearances." Emma's words rushed out frantic. Titan's growl sharpened, his body tensed. Harris smiled faintly, but it didn't reach his eyes. Disappearance is a matter of perspective. Some people vanish because they want to, some because others decide it's necessary. His eyes flicked to Titan, then back to her. "You've got a dog with a very specific set of instincts." Emma's stomach churned. This man wasn't just unhinged. He was methodical, precise, morally twisted. But there was something familiar in his gaze, a certain recognition, as if he knew her life, her decisions. She couldn't place it, but unease coiled around her like a snake. "Why, oh, why do you have all of this?" "All these names?" she asked, voice trembling. "They are histories," Harris said, stepping closer. "Accounts of choices, of actions, of consequences. People come and go. Some stay longer than they should. Some must be reminded why they disappear." His tone was disturbingly calm, almost academic. Emma's mind raced. Could she even trust herself to act here? Every instinct screamed to run, to flee the farmhouse, to leave Titan behind, but she couldn't. He had chosen this moment as much as she had. Sensing danger, she was only beginning to comprehend. "You," she started, voice low. "You knew Matthew." "My ex." "Did he?" Her throat tightened, words failing. Harris's gaze sharpened, cutting through the dim light. Matthew was careless. He underestimated consequences. You, however, are cautious. Perhaps that's why you're still breathing." Titan barked sharply, and Emma jumped. Harris's eyes flicked down to the dog, narrowing. "Ah," he murmured, almost to himself. "The dog sees what you refuse to admit." Emma's pulse raced. She felt cornered but unwilling to surrender. "You've been keeping people here. Capturing them? Why?" Harris tilted his head, eyes calculating. "Control is an illusion. Fear, anticipation, secrets, those are real. And the world needs reminders. People like your ex, they forget the weight of their actions. Sometimes a disappearance is simply a lesson." Emma swallowed, trying to steady her racing thoughts. Her heart beat painfully against her ribcage. Titan growled again, this time more sharply, more aggressively, his teeth bared. Harris's expression didn't change. He merely watched, unflinching, as though he had anticipated every movement. "You won't stop me," Emma said, voice trembling but resolute. "I won't let you hurt anyone else." "Stop you?" Harris laughed softly, a dry, humorless sound. "You're already here. You've already seen too much. The choice is yours. Do you become part of the history, or do you leave and pretend none of this exists?" Emma felt a pang of betrayal, not from him, but from herself. Her instincts. honed over months of living alone, had failed to anticipate the depth of darkness beneath her feet. She glanced at Titan, whose fur bristled, every muscle taut with anticipation. Together, they were her only allies. Suddenly, a sound, a scrape, a shuffle from deep in the basement, made her jump. Titan barked and charged forward, forcing Harris to step back. Emma's flashlight caught a glimpse of movement. Another figure, smaller, shrouded in shadows, emerging from a hidden passage behind a pile of crates. The figure paused, uncertain, then stepped fully into the weak light. It was a young woman, eyes wide with fear, hands trembling. Her clothes were ragged, face streaked with dirt and tears. Emma's breath caught. "You're alive?" The woman nodded, voice barely audible. "Please help me." He won't." Her words broke off as Harris stepped forward, calm and menacing. "You see, Emma," Harris said, voice smooth, "you discover my collection. But what you don't understand is that every person here has a role, and some roles are permanent." Emma's mind screamed. She had to act, had to protect the girl, had to find a way out. But the moral clarity she craved was muddied by fear, uncertainty, and the very real threat of Harris's control. She realized with a sickening clarity that her choices could have life-or-death consequences. Titan growled low and fierce, stepping in front of Emma. The dog's eyes locked on Harris, unwavering, as though silently communicating a warning. "Do not cross this line." Harris's gaze flicked from Titan to Emma, then back to the young woman. A slow, almost imperceptible smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. "Interesting," he murmured. "Perhaps you are more useful than I imagined." Emma's stomach twisted. Useful? How? She couldn't know. But she understood one thing. Trust would be her only weapon, and even that could be a trap. Her mind raced, calculating possibilities, escape routes, potential distractions. The basement was a maze of stone shadows and hidden passages. Titan, sensing her thoughts, stayed close, tail stiff, ears forward, ready to act at her slightest command. Emma took a deep breath, feeling fear and determination coiled together. She had to move, to guide the girl to safety, to challenge Harris. And yet every step carried uncertainty. Every choice carried risk. One wrong move could destroy them all. Then, unexpectedly, Harris stepped back, hands raised slightly, expression inscrutable. "Very well," he said, almost casually. "You want answers? I'll give you answers. But some truths are heavier than your heart can bear." Emma felt her pulse spike. The moment of revelation she had feared had arrived. The basement held more than disappearances. It held secrets that could shatter everything she thought she knew. She glanced at Titan, who gave a short, reassuring bark. Together, they would face whatever lay in the shadows. But even as she moved forward, Emma felt the weight of the unknown pressing in. Because in this basement, in this remote farmhouse, morality, trust, and survival intertwined in a way she could barely comprehend. The shadows seemed to pulse, alive with anticipation, and Emma realized with grim clarity that the basement was far from just a physical space. It was a crucible of human frailty, fear, and deception, and she unwillingly had become a part of it. Her hands tightened around the flashlight. Titan's growl rumbled beneath her. Somewhere in the darkness, the truth waited, and Emma was determined to find it no matter the cost. Emma's hands tightened around the flashlight. Titan pressed close at her side, growling low in warning. Harris had stepped back, but his eyes never left her or the young woman. The dim basement light flickered, casting a labyrinth of shadows across the stone walls. Emma realized that every shadow could conceal danger. Every echo of her own breathing might be mistaken for a trap. "You're safer now," Harris said, voice deceptively calm, "but safety is temporary. Choices aren't." Emma swallowed, forcing herself to stay steady. She had a survivor now, someone whose life depended on her courage and instincts. The young woman, clutching the notebook of dates and names, peered at Emma with wide, haunted eyes. "Follow me," Emma whispered, and together they crept through the uneven stone floor, Titan leading, nose low, alert to every movement. Each step echoed in the silent chamber, every sound amplified, like the walls themselves were listening. The hidden passage behind the crates led to a narrower corridor. Dust hung thick in the air, catching the weak flashlight beams in ghostly clouds. The girl whispered, He'll know if we try to leave. Emma nodded, understanding the weight of fear. Harris wasn't just a captor. He was a master of manipulation, a predator who preyed on human fragility and secrecy. She had to think several moves ahead. Titan's growl suddenly deepened. Emma froze. The dog's hackles bristled, tail rigid. Something or someone was approaching. A shuffle from behind, soft but deliberate. Emma pivoted slowly. Harris had followed them, silent and ominous. "You think you can just walk out?" he said, almost conversationally. "You misunderstand the rules." Emma swallowed, her mind racing. She needed leverage, a distraction, anything. Her gaze fell on a stack of old tools leaning against the wall. Hammers, wrenches, knives. She picked up a wrench, feeling the weight of metal in her hand, grounding her. Titan growled in response, a deep, resonant sound that mirrored her own rising tension. The girl clutched her arm. "Be careful, he's dangerous." Emma's pulse pounded. "I know," she said softly, "but we'll get out." Harris advanced, slow and deliberate. Emma's mind mapped escape routes. A narrow exit passage led to a small trapdoor at the far end of the cellar. It wasn't large enough to run through easily, but it could work. Titan would be essential. "Choices, Emma," Harris murmured. "Every step has consequence. Every decision has weight." He moved closer. Titan snarled, teeth bared, growling like a living engine of tension. Suddenly, Emma's arm shot out, wrench raised, and she swung with precision. The metal clanged against the stone wall, startling Harris. Titan lunged forward, teeth snapping, barking fiercely. Chaos erupted in the cramped corridor. The young woman stumbled, but Emma caught her. Titan bit at Harris's sleeve, forcing him back. Emma darted toward the narrow passage, heart hammering. The trapdoor loomed ahead, just as the girl fell behind. Titan barked, nudging her along, urging speed. They reached it together, and Emma wrenched it open. Light from outside spilled in, a faint promise of safety. But then Harris's hand shot out, grabbing Emma's wrist. Pain seared through her, but she twisted violently. Titan bit down on Harris's arm, letting go just enough for her to pull free. Emma yanked the young woman through the opening, then climbed after her, pulling the door closed. They emerged into the fading twilight behind the farmhouse. The air smelled of earth, pine, and freedom. Emma's lungs burned, Titan panting beside her, ears alert. The girl collapsed onto the grass, trembling, tears streaking her dirt-smeared face. It's over, right?" the girl whispered. Emma shook her head slowly, heart still racing. "Not entirely," she admitted, glancing back toward the farmhouse. "But we're safe for now." Sirens wailed in the distance. Emma had called them before descending, using her phone to alert authorities the moment Titan had frozen at the basement door. Police lights flickered through the trees, casting harsh, blue illumination across the farmhouse. Harris had vanished by the time the officers arrived. His absence left a lingering, visceral tension, a reminder that he wasn't gone entirely, just temporarily out of reach. Emma gave a statement, describing the basement, the notebook, the hidden passages, the survivor. The police were skeptical, horrified, yet procedural. As the survivor was escorted to safety, she clung to Emma briefly. "Thank you," she whispered. I thought I'd never get out." Emma nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle over her. Titan nudged her leg, eyes bright, tail wagging slightly. The dog had done more than guide her. He had reminded her instinctively that courage sometimes meant following loyalty, even into darkness. Later, alone in the farmhouse, Emma sat on the porch steps, watching the sun dip below the horizon. Titan rested beside her, head on her lap. The air was calm, almost deceptively so, but the memory of the basement lingered, like a shadow pressed against her chest. She thought of Matthew, of Harris, of the lives recorded in stone below. Betrayal, secrecy, moral compromise. They were all human, painfully human, and Emma understood something crucial. Survival wasn't just about strength or cunning. It was about understanding the depth of human nature, and sometimes about accepting that evil could hide in plain sight. Titan nudged her hand, and Emma smiled faintly. She had faced the darkness and, for now, survived. But the farmhouse, the shadows, the echoes in stone, they would never be entirely gone. In the quiet evening, She whispered to Titan, almost a confession. "We did it, boy. But the world can still be cruel." The dog's eyes reflected hers, unwavering and loyal. Emma realized the emotional weight of her journey had changed her. She had faced fear, made impossible choices, and yet, in the lingering twilight, she felt something she hadn't in months. Hope. Not a naive hope, but a tempered one, forged in the crucible of fear and loyalty, survival and courage. The sun set, leaving a faint glow in the sky. Emma knew tomorrow would bring questions, healing, and perhaps lingering shadows. But for now, she let herself breathe. She and Titan had faced the darkness, together. And for the first time in months, the farmhouse felt like a home again.